everyone, welcome back to my channel. Just as I promised, I'm currently working on sewing my wardrobe, and the first video I planned is gonna be about me sewing wraparound skirts, a couple of types of wraparound skirts. I think I'm gonna start with the simplest one, the easiest one to make, the one that you don't even have to measure yourself to make. Yeah, and then I will move on to a slightly more difficult one. I was a little bit delayed because I've been working on a lot of different orders, and particularly this gorgeous, beautiful replica of 19th century corset. Yeah, I almost said 18th century, but it's Victorian corset. And yeah, the project was quite difficult, so I didn't have time to work on my personal things. Yeah. So this week you won't see me making skirts, but you'll see me attempting to make a copy of this gorgeous 19th century corset. So this all started when a lady from UK reached out to me in hopes that I can at least copy the flossing pattern on this corset. But I told her, why don't we make a copy instead? And let me tell you, I loved working on this corset, but it was kind of difficult for me to do some things because I do not have all the equipment. For example, this cording, I don't have a special long needle to push through the cords, and yeah, I had to make up my own way of dealing with this problem. But if it works, it works. It doesn't matter if it's a fancy device or just a simple needle. Unfortunately, museum didn't have a picture of this corset from the back at the moment of us asking, and I had to come up with a period appropriate version of the back that would be different from the one that is in original corset, but still would be appropriate for that time period. But I don't think it's a huge deal breaker, at least not for me. Sometimes I have to work with only one blurry picture, but this time the client provided me with 2 or even 3 pictures of the front and sides, and even without the back I was able to see all the pattern at front and on the sides, and I tried to replicate it as close as possible with the modern materials. And let me go on a little rant here. The modern materials that we use for modern corsetry are so much different from the ones that were used in the past. For example, busks, bones, eyelets, they are all now standard. They have different sizing options, but they all are standard all around the world, which wasn't a thing in the past because all of these things, they weren't mass produced as they are now. And when you try to replicate anything from the museum and you don't have the real measurements of that thing, when you try to guesstimate the dimensions, the sizes, the length, the width, you need to take some beginning point, right? To be able to do so, to guesstimate the size of everything. And it doesn't work with all of the items because the modern things that we have, they are not the same size that they were in the past. For example, I sometimes try to measure modern corsets according to the busks that I see on the old-time corsets, like I compare the size, the distance, and that's how I'm able to copy at least the shape and the size and the distance. But on this particular corset, the busk was absolutely not the same and not similar, not even similar to the modern one, which is not a huge problem, but still a little bit frustrating. Anyways, with this corset, I had 2 pictures, which is already a lot. Let me tell you, I'm absolutely grateful to have been having 2 pictures. So I was able to figure out the sides and the front of the corset, which is more than a half of the work done. And while I was yapping about specifics of copying a corset from a museum, it is almost ready now in the video. But there's still so many things I had to add to this corset to make it just like in the picture. For example, the lace. Luckily for both me and my client, I had a nice piece of an antique lace that looks very close to the one that was used on the original corset from the museum. It is fairly light, thin, and very pretty. Now it's time to close the edges of the corset, but that's not my favorite way to do so. I have a video where I show the way I usually close the seams. But this is the one that was used on the original corset, so I'll have to replicate it. And now, since everything else is basically done, it's time to decorate this corset with flossing. Wait, you must be wondering, what the heck is flossing? Well, let me tell you, it's not just a dance move, and it's absolutely not a dance move in this particular case, but it's a cool way to elevate the look of your corset. And not only it is pretty, but it is also very practical, and it was used in the past to prevent boning from poking through the fabrics. So not only will it make your corset look cooler and more historically accurate, it will also prevent your corset from tearing faster and will prolong its life. But of course, some of the flossing is there just for beauty points, and that's also great. Last year I tried flossing for the first time, and the first time around it was quite difficult, but the longer I practice, the easier it gets. So don't worry if it doesn't look exactly like in the picture that you use for reference from the first time. It will get there over time. So before we move on to the corset reveal, let me tell you just a couple of things. And the first one, you will definitely notice that two elements, embroidered elements that are present on the original corset are missing from my version. And that's because they were missing during the photo shoot. Usually I'm taking pictures of what I make here together with my sister. I just hang background and we take pictures together. But this time I wanted to rent a location, invite a model, and do it all nicely. But unfortunately, I didn't finish these two elements until the photo shoot. And I just couldn't reschedule because out of the respect for the photo studio time and for the model's time, just couldn't reschedule it. That's it. So I had to go with my original idea, just the way it was. But then I took this corset home. I added these two embroidery elements, these flossing elements, and I shipped it right away, and that's it. So the corset got shipped in the complete form, but it got photographed in its incomplete form. And that happens, you know, life happens. You just have to adapt and do what it is possible at the moment. That's it. And the second thing I wanted to tell you is that I wanted to give you a couple of words of encouragement if you're starting your sewing journey and you're hesitating, like maybe you feel like it's too hard or too difficult, or you feel like you don't have a talent to crafting things. Let me tell you, talent doesn't exist, like at all. Talent doesn't exist. You just have to work, learn, and keep doing what you do, and eventually you're gonna get good, and then you get better and better and better and better progressively, exponentially. You know, like if you're trying hard enough, you're gonna succeed in whatever field you choose. It's not only about sewing, it's anything. So yeah, now it's time to see the final corset. Let's go. To be honest, this corset was quite a challenge for me, but I really liked making it, and I'm really grateful for my friend helping me with filming and photographing it. And thank you also for watching and staying so long. Hope you liked the video. Bye!